This video will show you how to replace the front headlamp assemblies on a Chrysler Town Country. You'll have two of these, one along each side of the front of your vehicle. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To do this, let's safely make our way under the front of the vehicle first. Now that we made our way underneath the passenger side front of the vehicle, we can see where one of our fog lamp assemblies are. Now, as I mentioned, you're going to have one of these on each side of the vehicle and the process will be the same. The first thing we're going to do is attempt to remove our electrical connector. Now, this electrical connector does have one squeezable tab. We'll squeeze that in and pull this out of place. If you find you have a hard time, you can use some pliers if necessary. Of course, every time you disconnect an electrical connector, a quick peek for corrosion. I don't see any here. Looks good, we'll set it aside. There's that one. Now let's focus on dislodging the lower portion of the bumper cover. You're going to find that there's 4 plastic push clips that need to be removed. I'm using a trim tool for these. You can also use a flat blade screwdriver. Typically, you just want to carefully pry those out of place. Just a quick inspection, set them aside. There's 4 of these making their way all the way across. Now at this point, this is completely broken free across the bottom area. Now we need to make our way along each side of the vehicle up towards the inside wheel well. So now along each side of the vehicle, along the wheel well where the bumper cover connects to our inside fender liner, you're going to find that you have 2 Phillips head screws. And then up in the upper corner, you're going to have a 10mm bolt that goes through the bumper cover into your fender. On our particular application, it does look like there's some damage here. Let's go ahead and remove this hardware. So I've got my Phillips head, small ratchet. Let's move along to our 10mm mounting bolt. As you know, ours is actually damaged here. Typically, you just go ahead and turn that counterclockwise. Let's see if this one comes out. Now, typically, you could remove that bolt, and then you should be able to pull this out and away. As you can tell, our body of the vehicle is damaged, so I cannot remove that bolt. We're just going to carefully pull down on the bumper cover just enough. There is 2 locating tabs. We need to bring them below the fender. Then you should be able to pull it out and start sliding it away from along where the headlamp assembly is. There we are. That's exactly what we want to see. At this point, I'm going over to the other side of the vehicle. I'll repeat this exact same process. Then we're going to be making our way up along the front of the engine compartment. Now that I've done that side, I'm going over to the other side of the vehicle. There is going to be one difference on the driver's side of the vehicle, and that's where the fender liner connects to the front bumper cover. For this, I'm just using a trim tool. There's that plastic push clip. Now at this point, the process will be the same for the removal process of the bumper cover along that fender. Now I've completed the other side, so I'm up along the front of the engine compartment as I mentioned. Right next to where our headlamp assemblies are on the bumper cover, you're going to find along each side of the vehicle a 10mm bolt. Let's remove that bolt. Same thing on the other side. Now with both of those out of there, I'm going to be holding pressure on the front grille and the bumper cover up against the vehicle. We only have 2 more push clips holding this in place. There's one here, one on the other side. For these push clips, just start dislodging the center. To unlock it, once you have it lifted up, you should be able to remove it. Let's get ready to remove that bumper cover. Remove that bumper cover. There it is, friend. Just a quick inspection and we'll set this aside. Now that we have the bumper cover out of the way, we can start removing the headlamp assembly. In this area just below it, you can see that we do have an electrical wiring harness. This leads up and over this plastic bracket. I'm going to dislodge it. With it out of the way, it exposes 2 10mm bolts. We have one here. The second one's all the way over on the far side here. Those are going to be the 2 bolts that I would remove. After that, I would typically just pivot this down as necessary. One thing I would note on my application is the body of my vehicle is rotted and damaged here. There should be a metal piece that comes across. On your application, it should be there. Once you remove these bolts, just pull this down as necessary. Now, as I mentioned, that would just flex down as necessary here, and we can continue on. To continue removing the headlamp assembly, you're going to find that you have 3 10mm mounting bolts. You'll have one up along the top, one on the lower outer corner, and one on the lower inner corner. Typically there would be a plastic panel here, just adjusted as necessary. Now before I remove the upper piece of hardware, I'm going to make sure I'm holding onto the assembly. Just keep in mind there is still wiring harnesses along the inboard side that we will have to disconnect. Let's have a look along the back side. Now looking along the back side of the headlamp assembly, you can see all of the electrical wiring harnesses that I had mentioned. Let's start disconnecting these. Now if you're intending on reusing the bulbs, typically you can just unscrew these. On this one in particular, up along the top outside corner, you really can't unscrew it. Just take hold of the locking tab on the electrical connector and slide that out of place. We're going to continue on to the next set of bulbs here. For these, typically you just twist them as I mentioned, and we can unscrew it from the assembly itself. As you remove each one of the bulbs, give them a close inspection. Also, it's not a good idea to touch up against the glass if you have oily fingers. Just keep that in mind. We'll continue up to the next one here. Now, if you find that you can't turn this one because of the electrical harness, you are actually going to have to disconnect it. This is something that's common on this one. For that, it has a locking tab here where my thumb is. I'm pulling that up and away. You'll find that you have a second one on the opposite side. As you pull both of them away, you can go ahead and slide that out of position. Take hold of that bulb, turn it counterclockwise, and remove that as well. I'm going to continue on to the next one right up in this area. I'll take hold of it, turn it counterclockwise, pull that out of place. There it is, friend. Now it's time for installation of our brand new headlamp assembly. Now before we get this in position, let's just have a quick look along the back side. Along the back side, you can see that we do have some bulbs installed. We also have one alignment point here up along the top. You would use an 8mm, and you can turn this in one direction or the other as necessary to adjust your low beam height. That would be done with it installed and of course on a flat level surface. Okay, so let's start by installing our directional bulb into its corresponding port here. We want to line it up. We're going to twist it until it feels like it wants to sit flush. Keep turning it clockwise until it's completely bottomed out. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Let's continue on to the next bulb. This is our high beam bulb. We're just taking that electrical connector, pressing it in, listening for an audible click from each of the two locking ears. We'll move along to where the low beam bulb is next. Same thing here. Just go ahead and line it up, press it in. We're listening for a click. There we are. Double check those ears, and that is secured. Now we have one last electrical connector. Looking at this, we can tell that we have a rounded edge and a flat edge. The flat edge would be up along the top. Let's get this in place. Now, once you feel as though you have it in the proper placement, we're going to start in each of our long 10mm headed mounting bolts. Now, when you do start these in, you're going to find that the headlamp assembly can still move around, which is good because we will have to align it with our front fender. Let's move along to the next two bolts down along the lower portion of the headlamp. Now that we have all three pieces of hardware that hold the headlamp assembly in place, before we tighten them, we need to pay attention along where the headlamp and the fender are supposed to meet. We'll make any adjustment as necessary, and then we can start tightening the hardware. I like to start with the upper portion. I'll make my way to the lower outer corner, and then finish with the inner corner. Before you continue any further, just double check, make sure it looks good. Let's continue on to the last bolt. One last confirmation on that alignment. This looks good along the fender. We'll continue on with the lower bracket. Now, as far as this lower bracket, typically it would still be attached to my fender and I would have just had it flexed down. Since my fender is rotted, it was out of place, so I'm just going to rest it in the proper position and start in each of my two 10mm headed mounting bolts. Once they're both started in, we can snug them up. Now we have our electrical wiring harness. We'll make sure that we have that in the proper placement. It goes up and over this hooked area and then down through here. Now at this point, we fully installed the passenger side front headlamp assembly. We would want to go over to the other side of the vehicle, and you're going to repeat this exact same process. When we do these, we do them as a pair. After you've completed that, you'll continue on to reinstalling the front bumper cover. We'll bring this into position. As I bring this over towards the front of the vehicle, we need to align our upper mounting points. Once you feel as though you have those aligned, I like to start in the center with my push clips. That's going to prevent this from falling down while we continue on. Now I am replacing my outer mounting bolts here. Let's go ahead and start those in. Now let's get the next one in here. Once you have both of those started in, go ahead and snug them up. Now along each side of the front bumper cover, if we were to pull this away, we do have the plastic bracket that we had installed underneath the headlamp. The bumper cover sits on top of that. We're going to make sure that it aligns, and now we're coming over towards where it connects towards the fender here. Now if you were looking closely, you can see that you do have one alignment tab. This is part of the corner bumper bracket. That would slide into this small port on the fender. We'll make sure that we have it aligned and slide it in. Now, once you feel as though you have the bumper cover in the proper placement, along each outer corner of the bumper cover, there should be a 10mm bolt that comes through the bumper cover up into the fender. As you remember, during the removal process, our vehicle is a little rotted. Those bolts did not come out. It was pretty much just broken. For you, reinstall each one of the mounting bolts and make sure they're nice and tight. After you have those installed, we'll continue on with our front inside fender liners. So as far as these fender liners are concerned, they need to go behind the front bumper cover, and we're going to align the mounting bolt ports. We'll flex the bumper cover as necessary. Double check, make sure that's secured. Of course, repeat the process on the other side of the front bumper cover. On the driver's side of the front bumper cover, you remember that we did have one push clip on this side that wasn't on the opposite side. We need to make sure we align the bumper cover with the inside fender liner, and we'll install our plastic push clip. Now let's make our way underneath the front of the vehicle. We're going to have an area for 4 push clips making their way across. I am replacing my push clips with new ones for these. Okay, friend, we finished our installation of the headlamp assemblies. Now the next thing we want to do is test the functionality of each one of the bulbs. After that, of course, align them to the proper specifications and then take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
Now we're going to get the vehicle ready to aim the headlights. Start with the tire pressure, making sure all 4 tires are set at the appropriate pressure. Remove any excessive weight that's not normally in the vehicle. Find a wall that you can drive up to where the ground is level. Measure 25 feet away from that wall and mark the ground. Drive your vehicle up to that mark. With the headlights off, look for the center dot in the headlight lens. Measure from the ground to that center dot. You can use a ruler to help you out. Transferring that measurement to the wall, making a mark with some tape. On the driver's side, measure down 4 inches, putting another piece of tape. For the passenger side, you only need to measure down 2 inches. Now turning the headlights on, it is easier to do this at night or in a dark area. Locating your headlight adjuster and using a Phillips head screwdriver, turn your adjuster one way or another to bring the headlight up or down. Once the headlight is adjusted to the tape mark on the wall, move on to the next headlight. If you're confused because the beams seem to blend together, you can always have someone stand in front of the other headlight while you make your adjustments for that one. Now your headlights are aligned and you're all set to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.